The other thing that all three have in common, the finalists, that all of the titles have subtitles. Patrick Smithwick's book, Flying Change, A Year of Racing and Family and Steeplechasing, chronicles the 9 months of preparation from inactivity, so to speak, in race riding to preparing for one of the toughest amateur steeplechase race in the country. Patrick is a lifelong horseman, author also of Racing My Father, which was a finalist for this award. He lives on a farm. Currently, it was his family farm, the farm that he was raised on in Moncton, Maryland, but did ride for his father, who was the legendary A.P. Smithwick. Has a BA from Johns Hopkins, an MA in creative writing from Hollins College, and is a teacher and head of the English department at Hartford Day School. And I believe this is the first time he gets to be here in person versus the last time when he was a finalist, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't able to be with us. So welcome, Patrick.
I hope I behave when I'm up here. Sometimes I'm not sure quite what I'm going to be doing. Thank you, Shane, very much for continuing the tradition of this award. And I think thanks to the judges. I just can't get over how you judge all these books. I was at the races today. Those stewards get paid all this money, and all they have to do is look at a photograph at the end of the race. It's a piece of cake. So thank you all very much. I'm honored to be here with Susan, and I spent some of the afternoon with Rudy at the races, and we both came back with our wallets and a few dollars in our pockets that we didn't invest it all in Keeneland. Much of the reason my book, Flying Change, is in this horse race today is due to the support of my wife Ansley, who I lost for a few minutes, and she's right over there, I'm glad to say. And my children, Eliza, Patty, and Andrew. Now I think of it, I wrote a lot of this book while my son Andrew was in Iraq with the Marines. That was kind of tough to do. But also I'd like to thank I'm up here because of the editorial skills and advice and encouragement of great friends John Egan, who's here somewhere in the back, Carrie Woodward, Harriet Eigelhart, Peter Winance, who's no longer with us. You all have heard of him. Maureen Henderson, and due to the training expert of a certain person who I nicknamed my friend, Tom Voss. Now, as soon as I got here, someone asked this question, so I'm going to try to do it like this. Now, you're at a book signing. You're out on the sidewalk at Saratoga. It's 80 degrees. It's 5 o'clock. Everyone's going into the bars, and they're all not even looking at you. Someone comes up, and they stand in front of your table, and this is what happens. At a loss at what to say, standing awkwardly in front of you out on the sidewalk at a book signing, trying to make that big decision, holding your book in one hand, but the other hand far from his wallet pocket. A potential buyer will fidget, look you in the eye just for a second, and he'll ask, "How long did it take you to write this book?" In this case, I could say 40 years. But I don't. That might blow him away. I'd lose the sale. Yet it was exactly 40 years ago, after I'd left the track for the first of many times over the summer of 1973, that Horseman's Journal, a magazine mentioned earlier, published a short story of mine I had written on my Hall of Fame father, expressing my love for him and focusing on the last day we had spent together before he had a fall in a hurdle race that stopped his riding career and changed the life of our family. That story was about getting up at 5 a.m. as a 14-year-old, going to work at Belmont Park with my father, galloping horses alongside him, watching him school over hurdles, a colt no one else could even sit on, going to Esposito's for a few drinks at 14. John and what were their names? I'm a little nervous. John and the brothers would fill up a whole thermos of screwdrivers for my father. Then we'd hit the Garden State Parkway in a hot car, heater blasting, popping layers of rubber suits and wool and corduroy to sweat off a few more pounds. Me as a 14-year-old at the wheel, speeding 80, 85 miles per hour. I'll never forget it, dropping him off to ride what was his last race, and then not seeing him again until I walked into a New York City hospital, and there he was, my father, the most gifted athlete I knew, in bed, unable to move, screw eyes like we used at the barn, but smaller, burrowed into his shaved skull, cables rising up into pulleys and back down to weights. From that story came the memoir, Racing My Father. And also came this book, Flying Change, for originally Flying Change and Racing My Father were one book, joined at the spine. I was shooting for the Moby Dick of horse books. When editors saw my thick manuscripts, they were aiming their cannons at my whale of a book and lighting the fuse. I finally gave up on these small-minded, petty editors. After all, this is what they did to Thomas Wolfe. He wanted all his work to be one book. I divided the book in half, and it has turned out all for the best, I hope, with Racing My Father being published in 2006 and Flying Change in 2012. Flying Change is told in a drop the reins and let 'em roll style. Let the verbs and phrases and sentences stretch out like a thoroughbred going for the wire. Let the language conform to the mood of the chapter. In Flying Change, I take the reader on a breeze, on a race around the track at Saratoga Springs, back to Maryland, out on gallops through the countryside with my children and my Uncle Mikey, who's no longer with us. On works banging stirrups against the 19-year-old leading steeplechase rider of the country. On port and bourbon-fueled fox hunts over chicken coops, through rivers, over posts and rails, jumping head and head with childhood friend Tom Voss as we had his children on Pepper and Queenie. And into the chute, the narrowing tunnel, the vortex that is Maryland in April, of lashing winds and fast horses and beautiful women that I don't pay any attention to. And late afternoon, out-of-doors drinking that seems to lower everyone's inhibitions. And cracking, breaking, spinning rails and terrible life-changing falls, almost, including one almost fatal of a friend. Through a late night of no sleep into the paddock of the Maryland Hunt Cup and up onto a big, rangy, gray horse called Florida Law, ready to run his heart out. I put a rubber suit, corduroys, wool sweaters on the manuscript of Flying Change. I set it in a 1966 Ford Fairlane with the heater going full blast and accelerator on the floor. I sweated 100 pages off that book, getting it fit and ready to go to the post. As any Irishman knows, this was very painful. I honed it down until the time frame consisted, like a woman giving birth, of a 9-month period. It goes from the moment galloping a horse on the track at Saratoga Springs in August, when I start to think of riding races, which is the conception, to the moment in April Tom gives me a leg up on Florida Law in the paddock of the Hunt Cup, the delivery. To further constrict my expansive Irish self, who has kissed the Blarney Stone twice, I narrowed the book down to 22 chapters, each representing one of the 22 fences in the Hunt Cup. And each chapter begins with a section of walking the Hunt Cup with my Uncle Mikey, and Uncle Mikey giving me tips on how to ride the fence and how to check up how to seduce young women, which I also did not listen to. Flying Change focuses on a man passing a milestone in his life and then suddenly feeling released. Released to say the hell with the frumpy bourgeois middle-class pressures of American life. Released to give the often accepted concept that you are transitioning, you are inexorably sliding downhill into middle age. You might as well develop a paunch and stand on the sidelines of life forever. I felt released to give this idea a kick in the butt. Then, when this middle-aged man does decide to go for it, he has to deal with the criticisms of many. You're too old. You have too many responsibilities. What if? What if? Think of your wife. Think of your children, your job. And then the kicker, you remember what happened to your father. Yes, I remember. And I also remember what happened to many others. A few of them are going through my head now. tragedy, how so many have been broken by the track, by racing, this is also a theme of the book, as is risk and how to deal with it. Other themes, love of my children, my wife, my friends, and importantly, my overall love of the power and beauty, bravery and heart of the thoroughbred horse, and in particular, in this book of Florida Law, Welterweight, and Warfield, all now deceased. I hope that the pages of Flying Change honor them and keep their spirits alive. Thank you.
Some great presentations from all the authors, and that's just terrific. And when Susan was talking about the thoroughbred industry, it just reminded me of something. She used to drop the word thoroughbred industry 5 times in her presentation. And first time I ever met Dr. Ryan, sat down with him in the room. We're talking about a wide range of different things. And I used the word thoroughbred industry to him, the term. He goes, "What is that?" He goes, "That's a strange term to use, thoroughbred industry. I never heard that before." And so every time I'm sitting down and writing a story now, I'm writing about the thoroughbred industry, he's sitting on my shoulder saying, "Don't use that word." But as you can tell from the presentations, thoroughbred industry is wide and sweeping and exciting and interesting on a lot of different levels. And I think the authors kind of showed the depth of the thoroughbred industry today. And thank you for those great presentations. So I guess without further ado, we will announce the winner.
Drums rolling. Okay, a lot of hard work and sweat, and sometimes dividing by 2 works out. Well done, Patrick.
Well, thank you very much. This is a lot of fun. I wish Mom were here. That's what they always say, and that's what I wish. I'm extremely honored to be accepting this award, and thank you, Shane, so much. And I wish I've learned so much about your father, and wish I could have met him and I feel like I'm getting to know him. I hope to use this award to pick up the whip, pull out the spurs, and get my next book completed into a publisher. A writer meets with an incredible amount of rejection. And sometimes the people around you start to wonder, what's he doing in that room scribbling on that paper, you know? And this award is wonderful in that it inspires us to get up at 5 a.m. and apply ink to paper before heading to the day job. So this morning I was getting the many thank yous I should be organizing. I was getting them all together, and I thought of one more, perhaps the most important of all. So I got a couple of minutes. You think I should go for it? All right. Did you all see Clint Eastwood at the Republican convention? That was terrible, I thought. Anyway, I thought this is a little bit like it. Okay. Here's this will be a little tough, but anyway, I'm going to give it a shot. The most important of all, Florida law, my mount in the book, Flying Change. At this second, standing here, I can feel, sense Florida, big, rangy, gray, and nervous. I never had such confidence in the jumping ability of a horse. I knew with full confidence he could jump over the 5-foot-high fences making up the turnout paddocks at Atlanta Hall, or any fence I pointed him towards. After riding him in his last race, the Maryland Hunt Cup, I actually wished I could ride him in some open jumping classes. Standing here, I can feel his high withers. I can cup my hand on the long cavity of his neck. I can ripple my fingers down his ribs. I can grip his powerful tendons. I can sense his unease, his reflexes, his instincts telling him to get ready to shy at something. And I stay steady and guide him past the bright soda can, the slamming car door, Jeff the huntsman cracking his whip, the cute girl waving a scarf at us. I feel his power as I squeeze my legs, touch him with the spurs, and steer him at full gallop through a herd of cattle. And this is in my body, a part of me forever. Crossing Tufton Avenue in the Maryland Hunt Cup in front, 10 lengths in front, daring anyone behind to stay with me. Straightening out, eyeballing the inside panel beside the flag of the 5-foot-high third fence, getting down low in the saddle, keeping Florida on the bit, rolling, tippy-toeing, galloping into that fence that had been my nemesis, that had almost sent me to meet my maker 3 decades earlier, that I had been asked about, teased about for years, but now confident, galloping, long striding, getting in just right, standing off, going up, 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 still higher, higher than I had ever jumped a horse, letting out a whoo of joy, and the crowd all scrambled around on the fence next to me, joining in with me. And Florida kicking his tail up. I could feel his tail hit me in the back. And coming down, astonished at the steepness of it. Down, down, landing at a full gallop. Standing here, I feel Florida rubbing against me, his long shoulder muscles pushing against me. Get back, get back. I'm moving my feet, trying to keep those big plates off of mine. My arm is through the rein. I cuss him out gently. I step this way and that. He nudges me. He wants to get back to his friends, Johnny Garland, Sam Sullivan, Iron Fist, and Mickey Free. He was so tall. I can feel every muscle in my body as I stretch, put my hands on his neck and the palm of the saddle, hop, hop on my toes to get up on him. Early in the hunt, after I've gotten off him to open a gate or for other reasons and need to get back on, I fly, my legs kick up behind me, and I land softly in the saddle, but late in the hunt, I don't make it quite so high enough. I have to pull myself on, scramble, wrestle myself on like a kid, while Florida says the hell with my incompetence, breaks into a jog, then a canter, as I struggle to get my feet in the stirrups, gather the reins, and prepare for the upcoming fence. I remember, as if it were seconds ago, the loud crashing boom of thunder on a spring night, the year after Florida retired, when I had thought I would hunt Florida for years to come, if I could keep Tom Voss off him. I awoke to the explosion of power and bright light, knowing something was terribly wrong. And I think that was the moment when Florida arrogantly refused to seek shelter, stood out in the field, his head held high, his ears pricked forward, his skin tensed, listening with his entire body to the drum roll of thunder, and then whack, instantaneously gone. Flying Change is about people, friendship, loyalty, love, passion, and as Hemingway put it about bullfighters, it's about living life all the way up. And it's about the horse, Florida, his running mate, welterweight, and my horse, Warfield. I thank them and the thousands of horses I've known. The horse gives and gives to us. The horse, beauty, mystery, power, elegance, speed, gentleness. It gives to man. It gives to art, painting, sculptures, literature, film. It gives to sport in an infinite number of ways. And for thousands of years, I'm teaching medieval history now. Watch out. And for thousands of years, since the days of Alexander, Attila the Hun, William the Conqueror, Jeb Stuart, Robert E. Lee, and Traveler, who was raised on my aunt's farm in Middleburg, Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, it has sadly given to war. I salute Florida, even as I feel the swish and sting of his gray tail across my face as I reach down to pick out his hind feet. I salute Florida and his friend Walter Waite a year later as I jog beside him in the paddock in the Worthington Valley. Tom jogging too. I hop on one foot, hands raised high. Tom grabs my leg, tosses me on, places my foot in the stirrup. I stand, gather the reins, in the zone, on our own, no longer really there with the thousands of calling out spectators, paying no attention to them. I put my hands on Florida's high withers, relaxed at one with Florida, with the sky and the thick grass and the fences coming up, and with the spirit of the horse. Thank you, Florida law. Thank you. Normally I want my friends to help, but I don't in this case because I don't want a percentage. Wait a minute, I want to run sexy.